What a special moment. Welcome to Bitcoin Craft Design Call number 100. It may or may not be 100. I feel like there was around 80 or so. There was at some point where we missed a number or so, but it probably is. So let's just roll with that one. Thanks all for joining. As usual, I will share the note doc with the notes, where you are also invited to add notes. As usual, what would you like to chat about on this call? I put in the usual stuff that we've been going on, like send and receive. Have some thoughts on that one. I assume we'll get Harold's here. Awesome.
Yeah. Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Good to be back. I think when I joined, there was no sound and the mic wasn't working, but that always happens with Jitsi first. Good to be back on the call. I went through the entire Discord history from the very beginning of the Discord history, just to get all that context, because I know that there's a bunch of things we would have discussed before that have probably been lost in time, and I did find a bunch of things. That kind of stems from on development. I think people like Johnny and Pablo and G, you guys want to explore and kind of just build out functionality, and then somebody else can handle the quality assurance. So that's one role I'm taking on more of is on the dev side. We'll implement features, and as they're good enough, we'll merge it. So soon, as Habasto reads my messages, we'll get the wallet model merged in, and then there's like one thing wrong with it. I think like the balance doesn't change properly, and that wallet little widget, it'll initialize wrong, like stuff like that. We'll fix on a follow-up, and I'll fix that as a quality assurance. But yeah, so it stems from that. Went through the entire Discord history. I have a bunch of issues that I'll open up. You guys might have gotten, I don't know, like 40 emails from me today if you get notifications on the repo, commenting on all the issues. So going through all of that, and we're going to get the wallet model basic functionality in, and that sets up the wiring. Like it actually sets up the wiring, and then from then on, it's tacking on functionality. Like if we're loading an encrypted wallet, we're going to handle the password. All those different variations of create wallet and sending and receiving. After we get this basic functionality in, we'll move towards that. So we're very much actively in implementing the wallet model, and you guys are very much actively finishing up the design for receive and send. And I know we previously had explorations on create wallet. So in a way, we're meeting up there. I know on the UI side, there's like, and so again, I went through the entire Discord history. On the UI side, making sure everything fits with the design file, there's a million things to do. But functionality wise, we are kind of meeting there, at least now with the wallet functionality, which is exciting. I know this has taken way longer than we've all wanted to, but I mean, we're there, we're getting there.
Awesome. Thanks for the update. And so you guys and gals now work on this project board, right? So we have this from the Bitcoin Corp landing page. We have this current code tasks link, right? This is what where you can see what you're doing. Is that up to date?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is yes. I think more yes. The answer is yes. I think it always becomes like we have to recommit to it, but essentially, yeah, the goal is to keep up to date with that. I think a bunch of the things I was doing recently didn't commit to it. Like I think the previous days, but yes, the idea is we'll commit to having it there
Yeah.
so we can all see.
I think project boards are always something where you kind of have to like find your commitment and then you get loose again a little bit. People go on vacation, you have to come back, you kind of have to reestablish. I think that's normal. But it's great if everyone kind of has it in their head, like, oh, there's this one place, and this is the place that we should kind of keep tidy and come back to. I think it's helpful when we're so working kind of separately um, in certain senses. So you said that you're kind of separating basic implementation of features and quality assurance, right? And
Yes, I think we on the dev side we did have a discussion,
mhm,
and it does seem that sometimes the review process, uh, and especially if people have been working on something for some time, and then I kind of come in and I'm like, well, so actually, this kind of stops the whole thing. That's not great, and so as long as things work and they're moving towards the right direction and there's no glaring like error, that can go in, and then we quickly follow up. We document. So like the idea is nothing can be lost. If we need to know every things that are wrong, we document it,
mhm.
and then we follow up on it. But yeah, so yes, it's straightforward. Yeah, we're going to be separating basic implementations and quality assurance just because we can move fast here. It doesn't mean that we're introducing junk, like that we just can't do. But as long as most of it is correct and most of it is there, we'll just do another round of quality assurance. That would be a follow up.
Yep.
I just wanted to mention something quickly, and excuse me if there's noise in the background. One of the plans that we had with the research side of things is to test after it's been implemented. So we're planning to test every single part of the user flow once it's been implemented. So that would be send, it would be receive, and so on. So is that what you mean by quality assurance?
So yeah, yes, that as well, but at least on like the specific pull request layer, each like, for example, if we look specifically at the recent wallet model pull request that was open, that one like there's like a couple of things that could be changed, but if we require Johnny to update it, we like have back and forth on review, and it takes days and days and days pass. Whereas it all works. There's like two things that can be updated, so we'll merge that PR and then we'll follow up to keep that activity going. But also as well, at least on the UI side, I know that there's going to be literally, I think, hundreds of things, right, that would need to be updated to specifically adhere to the design file. So after we've implemented all that functionality as well, your review on going through all of that is also quality assurance that we'll follow up on.
Yeah. And if one of the things, as you know too from the work on the guide, is that if the work is split into smaller chunks, it's much easier to review it and to reason about it, and then you can just move on to the next thing, right? And it's much harder to start a review when you're like, oh, this is going to take like 4 hours, right? But if someone works like little by little, but that also means then that what is merged is like, it's being puzzled together. And you might come in and the puzzle is like you just get like the pieces on the edge, right? And maybe the eyeball of the person, right? It's not a complete puzzle. It's not a complete image yet, right? So I think that's where it's just good, and in the design docs we had something similar at the top of the sending Bitcoin page. It just says status early design exploration. I think it's just about communicating in a when someone starts work, it's like, hey, I'm going to do this. My goal is just to kind of make the data available in the UI, but you're not going to have buttons for it. And then another task might be, okay, I'm just going to build some buttons in there, it's going to look like crap, but at least you're going to be able to press some buttons. And then maybe another step is, okay, I'm going to fine tune the interactions and make this custom option and other stuff. Right, so we're just going to have we're going to see this start a little, things start a little bit patchy and then kind of coming together. And then where user testing just has to be just a discussion at what the right time is. Because if you give people something that looks broken, they're just going to say it's broken. And that's not helpful user testing.
No, we definitely cannot use the tests prematurely. No, for sure not. And Yarrow, just so I understand correctly, so which part of the design will you be now kicking off implementing? I know you spoke a lot about it at the beginning, but I was a little bit lost.
Yeah. So, well, one thing I just wanted to clarify what development will kind of look like before that again, just to kind of make it clear. So, I think we've all probably used Midjourney, and if you ever look at Midjourney work, it kind of it'll show you a blurry image, and then it'll update and it'll start to get clearer and clearer and clearer. I think development will probably look like that, as in the core of it is there, and then all the very, very fine details get filled in 1 or 2 PRs later. Just because historically, we can probably look at PRs from before where, review was good at a certain time period. And then something needed to be updated. It gets updated, but then review didn't follow up quickly. We want to avoid that. So just to clarify what that'll look like going forward.
Yep.
And then specifically on the design, there's a couple of things I think in tandem that will be done. I think overall, I think what's really important to you is right now the next most important thing will be receive. 100% receive is the next thing, and the form for that. That's kind of the next lowest barrier thing for us to get done with the wallet model. Aside from that, there's a couple of things. I know Pablo, you'll be in general. I think Pablo, you also just commented on the settings things, but Pablo is doing the IP configuration page, and there's still some things to be done there. In general, I'll be doing QA on the GUI. So I think there's 37 issues with padding and everything. I have that documented, and I'll go around it. I just updated the peer details page. I'll be doing the activity page. For you, the most important thing from me would be I'll be doing the activity page. But there's a bunch of things going on in tandem. I think to narrow it down, though, I think the next 2 most important things are the activity and the receive.
Yeah, awesome. So question, so something that I was just trying to put together here is to write specs for the sending Bitcoin screen, because it just gets ultra complicated because it can be very simple, address amount, send, done, or it can be ultra complicated batch transaction with multi-sig custom fee rates and coin selection or whatever. So I'm pretty sure when we have to think about this on the design side, you also think about this on the development side. So we might as well think about it together, right? And for me, the reason to write this up is that it gives me kind of a checklist to go through the design and a prototype and make sure it has covered everything. So I was, there's some screens are just very simple, right? There's an icon, some text, and it's fine. Super easy to implement. But these parts are getting now very intricate. Should we have more of a, when implementation kicks off, have a session to talk about it, talk through everything, figure out those specs together so everyone can look at them instead of unnecessarily separating design and development? Or what do you think?
I think the first thing that 100% comes to mind, and I think we definitely should do, is we really should think about multi-sig is extremely important, and we want to have first-class support for that within the GUI, because I think we've all thought of the GUI as being part of like a part of a multi-sig setup. I think it's something people have wanted and want to do. But that's right now, if we want to go ahead and really complete all the core functionality behind receive and send, we're going to be running into a lot of friction also thinking about multi-sig on dev, and I think design side as well. If you guys agree, I think one thing that feels good is to say we'll sort of refactor in multi-sig afterwards, after we've just focused on more of the basic send and receive, and we have that implemented. So we're actively using send and receive.
Yep.
We have that implemented within the wallet. You're like actually running the GUI, and you're actually sending and receiving, and then we implement in multi-sig. Thinking
totally.
about yeah.
Totally, from implementation side, absolutely. From a design side, we can just go ahead and imagine, glorious visions of the future with a billion features in there. And if we, so the reason why I'm thinking about it too, and the reason why, last call and last couple weeks, we started looking at send and receive together, because they're two sides of the same coin. And like if we just design send in isolation, we might use UI patterns that will not work on receive, and vice versa, right? Or if we just look at the simplest form of sending, then we might realize we have to redo the whole UI once we insert coin selection or something, right? So working with all these things in mind is, allows us to reduce rework in the end. That's kind of the idea. So at least on the design side, it's great. I mean, it's more ambitious, it's more intense, more complicated, but I feel like it's helpful if we can already lay out that path.
That makes sense. Then my question is so what did you think about separating out? Did you think of separating out coin selection and designing that at a different stage, or?
No, actually designing everything right away, getting it all from the design side done, and then separating the implementation has to be more piecemeal, of course.
Okay.
Not just over weeks, but actually months or years, possibly, right? But at least from the design side, that we really have
no more
everything
years
figured out, and that actually, that at least you, it would be great then if, even if you're not implementing it yet, you can also review it and think about oh no, you forgot something here about fingerprints or other stuff, right? So that that path forward is thought through from design and development side, even though we can't really implement it quite yet. But I think that's I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, the send designs that Michael, you recently posted looked really interesting. With that batch transaction, I think that's already an improvement over the Qt widgets. It has a scrolling list for the batch transaction.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of what I think Christoph was saying, is that we have to kind of wrap our heads around the whole shebang, and then just implement case by case. For instance, we have send, and there is no coin control button, but we still have to think about it now, so that when we're ready to get started with implementing this, that we have an idea how it fits in. The same with multisig, where we can say, okay, this is basically on the UI, on the send screen, this is kind of just a module or an element or a component that gets added, and it has a lot of subsequent implication if you go that route as a user. But so we really need to kind of think about it now. And I think these the kickoff calls that you mentioned, Christoph, used to work pretty well in other situations and companies that I worked, is that basically to kind of, when the actual work starts, to kind of get an inventory of what's there, what's good, what's missing, and kind of refreshing all that stuff, because we might have worked on it like half a year ago, or 9 months or something. So I think that's usually a good idea.
Okay, awesome. Mo, I think you have to go in 5 minutes, right? You have another call coming up.
I do have to go in 5 minutes. Yeah.
And anything you'd like to chat about?
No. I'm just interested in seeing it move forward. So I'm just listening and yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, but no, I mean, that's great. Everything's going as expected, I think, or as we have come to expect.
I do have one question, because I see that there are prototypes ready. I think Michael posted them in the channel. I'll just go back to the Bitcoin Core app channel here. I think Michael shared a prototype here. Transactions, 2 basic concepts. Okay. I haven't been in the channel for a while because I've been busy with a Bitcoin Core app prototype. Here we go. Christoph sent one for the receive flow. Are there any prototypes that are sort of ready to be put in front of anyone at the moment?
No, I think, this is something that I was going to suggest in this call that Michael and I do, because we have all these variations around things now. And when I look at, I'm sure Michael does the same when he looks at my videos and prototypes, the same that I do. I go through this mental checklist here of stuff that we have to do. Like, okay, when I land on this page and I just clicked on a payment link, it should tell me like you're responding to a payment request, and it should pre-fill the address, and that should allow me to edit the address, right? If I land on this page and I have an address on my clipboard, it should offer me to pre-fill that. If I maybe open a draft or import a PSPD, it's going to look different. Or if it's still doing IBD, or right there, it's like every single element on this screen has like these different states and everything. And I don't think our designs are quite at the point yet where we have all of this nailed. And we kind of ping pong. Jakob, also, we've kind of been ping-ponging, but I feel like we actually need to go through and really refine something that covers everything,
Yeah.
because we're not getting to that level of detail right now where we're like, where we should be to really be confident like that this is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, and it's also it really was. It was like ping pong, yes, where I thought, hey, this is a good idea, but this is not doesn't feel quite right. So I started doing something else, and now we really, I think, can get to a place where we can also write a user story in terms of an extremely simple one. I just want to. I'm a user. I want to create a transaction manually without any link, anything, just that one. So that's one story. The other story is I click on a payment link. The third one is I paste it into the address field, and then these kinds of stories, and then we can decide which ones we want to test.
Yeah.
And build the prototypes for these exact scenarios so that they can be tested.
So in terms of the design scribble up here, we're kind of coming out of the really messy part here, and we're moving towards the flat line, but we're not quite there yet. And I think moving towards the flat line, that's like where you throw, you've come up with 1,000 variations, and you start ditching, you start poking around the ones you have until like everything really falls into place. So we need to get to the more flat part of the line yet, and then I think it's better. It'll be time to maybe do some user testing on the designs.
All right, I'm gonna hop because I have to go to another call, but good luck for the rest of the call. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your other call.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So Michael, I feel like we need to have maybe some work sessions the next week or so, where an hour a day or so we just kind of get together and just kind of work through things. And I think I also want to write out these specs here in a lot of detail. So we can have this common ground of everything that needs to be done.
Yep, I think that's a very, very good idea.
On sending and receive, at least on dev side, really depending on the wallet model. Johnny, do you want to just say anything on like the current wallet model, maybe what you'll do next, kind of setting expectations there, and also that would probably be interesting for ProMag. ProMag, you'd probably be very interested in how we're implementing the wallet model. We talked with Ava, and essentially the recommendation was just essentially forget about what's in Qt widgets and just start from scratch and implement a proper wallet model for QML.
Can you actually just speak to real quick to what you mean by wallet model? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the wallet model is essentially, you can think of it as, you have like an internal wallet, a C wallet. So this has scripts, and so think of it like when you think of a core wallet, you'll have your master private key and all. So think of that box as the wallet model. It'll represent the balance, and it'll represent certain things, and it's like a nicely defined box for one wallet, right?
it's a data structure?
So we'll have a wallet model for each wallet that you create, and then another thing we'll have some sort of controller or manager that'll essentially handle communication between all of these wallet model instances. And whenever you do an action on the GUI, it'll communicate with the wallet model, with the interfaces, and that'll get an action done within the GUI when you want to send or receive. So there's those two things, kind of the wallet model being a representation of the internal wallet, and then the wallet controller being kind of this all-encompassing thing that handles the communication to make a wallet action become reality.
Okay.
Was that enough? Like, is that clear?
I think I got it. I hope.
Yeah, and once that is done, then you can basically link UI components to these, and they automatically get filled with data, send commands, and then get updated when the data changes.
Yeah, the wallet controller will be in charge of sending those commands. Mm-hmm. Johnny, did you want to speak on it at all?
Yeah. The wallet model is really interesting from like a development process side, not so much design. I don't think you guys really care about how the structure of the data backing the UI. Not that interesting from a design perspective, but it's actually like really interesting from a development point of view, because I think it's at the core of like one of the struggles we've been having with process, in that like we're building a brand new user interface, right? And that sort of requires a very iterative process where you're building little chunks up, reviewing how well those chunks are working together, refactor, build up more, refactor, all that. And so for instance, this last PR, I build up just the pieces that I need to get my user interface done, and no more, but that leaves sort of maybe expected functionality missing until those user interface pieces can be built later on. So you get this really like kind of half-baked. It looks half-baked because all of the previous functionality is not there yet that you might expect. And so I think that's been like Harold kind of hinted at that at the beginning, where we find all these issues and we add them to our board, and so each PR is going to add little chunks to the model. But the idea there is that we actually don't we have a really good guess of what the model is going to look like, just because we have a user interface already built, but we actually don't know 100% for sure what it's going to look like, because user interface designs may demand different data types, different structures of the data. So actually, doing it this way, I think, is the correct way, in the sense that we'll be building this model in little chunks over time, and I believe that's how we're gonna correctly decide or correctly build it to fit our final product. Because I don't know anyone's actually smart enough to build the entire data model before we kind of finish the user interface. But
ProMag is.
ProMag
has a lot of experience.
ProMag, he does have the experience. Something like that could definitely be.
What?
but yeah. Anyways, that's kind of.
Now, one thing one thing I do know, it's not correctly designed in the existing wallet model, is handling handling of long operations or asynchronous operations, which cause the main event loop of Qt to stall the application, and it seems that the application freezes. So while doing this brand new model, this should be something to keep in mind.
Yes, and we kind of have an idea of what that'll look like, but that'll be another one of those iterations on top of what we have. So, but yeah.
Yeah, reach out anytime if you want to talk through anything. I have 20 years of development experience for pretty dynamic websites and stuff too. I think I have. I'm sure in with core and QML it's a little bit different, but probably enough similarities there. Where we can talk through everything if you have questions about the UI and how it might affect the data model and whatnot.
Yeah, no, we all pretty much understand how that works. It's more like we just have to naturally build it up in pieces, right? And so that's kind of what we're doing. But combining that with a long PR process has been a kind of a clash, because I don't think those two things really go together very well.
Just let me know. I will approve whatever PR you send me. Yeah. No. By the way, I know. Is there? I know some people, they like to cut issues down or PRs where it's not more than 4 hours of work or so. Do you have some target that you're shooting for?
Well, we tried that and it didn't really work. It's not really working that well, so we're trying to work through that. But
okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's why I think one thing is for functionality, just as long as it mainly works and there's no glaring issues, let it go in. As long as there's no glaring issues and it actually is doing what it intends to do, and for the most part it's decent. We'll revisit it in a follow-up if we need to document anything, and so there's not that long process, and so we keep activity, we keep consistency there, we keep the energy, and things move on.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, Harold. I think that's the right way. And it's hard because we go look at Bitcoin Core PRs and everything. Everything has to be perfect when you merge into that. and it's just it's hard to switch that mind back to like we're still pure development here. We're like,
Well, this is just
Yeah.
for development here on the repo.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when
absolutely.
we're at the stage where everything is ready, commits will necessarily need to be perfect and well organized, and so that'll be
we got a
something-
ways to go until we get
Yeah,
there.
that-
There's going to
we
be a
have
lot of
lots of-
churn. There's going to be a lot of churn in our code. Like things are going to be rewritten as we realize we did something wrong, and we need to be able to do that quickly. So I think what you said was right.
Do you
Yeah.
actually use lots of AI tools now to kind of keep your code tidy and cool? And
We try. I tried, but man, it's AI is very good at specific languages, and QML and C++ it is not very good at.
Interesting. Not
I've-
enough data.
I've
Yeah.
kind of noticed that sometimes it kind of leads you on the wrong paths. I try to use my reasoning on it. Like in the like when these things kind of became popular and with O1, yeah, I was like, oh, like this will be awesome. But I've kind of noticed a lot of times it'll lead you down one path that if you just put the brain power to just do it yourself, you would have gotten something done easier. So at least for me, it hasn't made me more productive. I think it like makes me like paranoid that it's like hallucinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish it was better. Unfortunately, it's not very good at our project. I really wish it was better. Certain projects it's amazing at, especially like Python stuff, but it doesn't do so well with Qt.
Yeah, I find it helpful for doing stuff that I could do where I pretty much know what I want. I just don't want to write it out, or stuff like regex, which I've never understood at all. But and then sometimes I just write a function name or I write a comment that explains what I want to do, and then I'll just expect. It works really well for JavaScript stuff. I find. Okay, cool. We have a lot of people here. What else do you want to talk about? Do you have anything design related, or anything timelines, or rest of the year, or Harold? You also mentioned something about grants, right? I haven't read your comments yet earlier.
Yeah, so G recently got funding from OpenSats to work on Assume UTXO and
Awesome.
that integration into the GUI. So I think G and Yashraj, you did a lot of the UI exploration before for Assume UTXO, and so I guess G, you'll be working closely with Yashraj, but also in general here in designs, and then also. G, one thing I wanted to comment is you should connect with Fabian. I already pinged Fabian about connecting with you, and Fabian kind of has taken on that project and moving it forward, and so it'll be great for you guys to connect there and implement that functionality within the GUI. So Assume UTXO, yeah, in Bitcoin Core 26, but actually, in a way, for some time, that project was kind of forgotten in a way, but now it is definitely revived thanks to Fabian, and we want to get it into the GUI, and so I think a great, a lot of the energy within the GUI is here, so why not implement it here first and not in Qt widgets, which would be replaced at some point, and so I think that's exciting. It is loading a snapshot, so kind of we do want to think about it like a user, like where does a user get the snapshot? Technically, it has to be from their other node. So right now, you can't torrent from the network. I think in the future it's something you do. So in the future, I think this might be more applicable to more users when they can actually just get a snapshot from the network. But right now, it would just come from their other node if they had another node. G, did you wanna say anything about that and everything?
Yeah. So right now, there's also a way. I think I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but Sorge has a couple of torrents that people can download the snapshots from, both for Signet and mainnet. So that's one way to kind of get the snapshot. But yeah, peer-to-peer would be the way to go in the future for sure. Yeah.
Do you mean peer-to-peer in like BitTorrent and external tools, or Bitcoin Core itself?
Well, from what I've read it's going to be peer-to-peer in Bitcoin, like much like the IDB, the IBD. Then it's going to be, people will have snapshots, and then you'll be able to download them.
Yeah, so nodes would be able to serve the snapshot at some point if that work continues. That would make it more applicable. So if it were available through the network, that would be one design, but it's not. I just wanted to clarify that. It'll be specifically the user needs to get this snapshot, whether it be generating it from their own node, or downloading it from Shores, getting his magnet link and downloading it. So it's not the most accessible thing, especially when we think of new users. A new user obviously probably doesn't have another node to generate the snapshot, but if they did, then they could load this if they were running the GUI on Android, and then they can use the wallet really quickly, and in the background do IBD. Yeah, Yashraj, go ahead.
So guys, so I was wondering if it would be possible for like the Bitcoin Core website to like have this to like host the file and then like have it signed, have it shall, and all of that like declared, so that when people download Bitcoin Core, they can also download this snapshot and like short circuit the IBD, because like downloading it from a torrent or like all of that, like I'm not sure like regularish users would be able to do something like that. And we already have like these Bitcoin Core binaries that are like we like have those downloads, right? I mean, people can build from source, but most of the people just like downloaded. A few of the people like verify the signatures or the SHA, and then we just use it, right? So like how feasible is something like that for Assume UTXO snapshots?
So Shore's torrent is really for testing. It's not meant to be like hey everyone, like here you go, use this. It's really for testing. If people wanted something quick in order to test that functionality with. BitcoinCore.org having a snapshot file, it adds more process to the release process. It's not in there's no clear direction on that. I think that'll be more defined as Fabian kind of does more there, as considerations on nodes serving that snapshot get fleshed out. But for now, it's really only, and for the foreseeable future, it's only going to come from a user having another node and generating a snapshot from that node. So that's really the only place it's going to come from.
Yeah, I guess the question is like, what of those pieces would you actually bake into the user interface to direct the user?
Just generating snapshot. So if a user ran the GUI on their desktop, we want them to be able to generate a snapshot, and then we want a user to be able to load a snapshot. Those are the two things.
Right, on the on the loading side, would you? We wouldn't really be able to add extra direction for how to get it or anything, right? It would be something they would have to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For loading, the only direction would be, or if we have information anywhere, it would be that they need to generate a snapshot.
Okay.
We can't point.
We can't have like the
Shores
magnet
no.
link in our application.
No, definitely not.
I was wondering if we could have the like links for the torrents on the bitcoincore.app website for now for testing. So if anybody wants to test, they can just go to the website and download that.
Yeah,
from
for
there.
testing
Yeah.
specifically, yeah, I can ask Shores if that would be fine to have that link there. Yes, just for testing and in our documentation. Yes.
Yeah. Just for our purposes for now, because I think like Assume UTXO can also be really helpful for people to test, so that they don't have to go through the IPD and they can directly test the wallet or to directly test the application itself. Because
Yeah.
otherwise they like have to do the whole entire IBD, you know.
Well,
And yeah.
so testing the wallet, remember we have Signet, Testnet, Reg Test. People can test the wallet without any long IBD. Now, if people want to make, we obviously we want to test mainnet transactions. When people want to test mainnet transactions, then yes, this makes it quicker for people to do that within within this new GUI. But remember, testing the wallet can be done really easily and quickly, testing those wallet features. Testing mainnet wallet transactions just for the fact of being on mainnet, then this will make it quicker for people to test.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, testing everything should be as easy as possible, so we get as much testing as we can, because it's already a big hurdle just to do it in the first place. So
Yeah.
whatever we can make easier there.
Does it generating the snapshot, does that require the user to say how big the snapshot should be, how far back it should go, or is that something that's just standardized and nothing to do for the user manually?
No, it's standardized. It's just they just click generate snapshot. It'll save to we want to save it to a location, but from there it's standardized. There's one implication. I think the question is like, what's the implications? One implication is on okay, so you can set settings. You can set prune. You can set your DB cache. So it'll be processing two chain states at the same time. It'll be processing from your snapshot, and it is still doing IBD in the background. One implication is actually, like, let's say you set DB cache to 550 megabytes or whatever, it'll actually be 1100 megabytes. So it does have implications on how we want to display settings values.
Yeah, we have some designs for this, and it's like, create a snapshot. It captures the current state. It can be imported into other nodes to speed up the setup. And then it's like, okay, it's creating. It just shows you a loading bar. It tells you can use the application while the process completes. And I think then we also have an indicator under the block clock. It says it's creating a snapshot. 1 hour to go. And then snapshot created, view details. And then you can view the file. Maybe file selection has to come earlier. I don't know, but that's the current design that we have. And we have both flows figured out. One for importing and one for creating, because I assume you only have one thing at a time. If you're done with IBD, you don't need to import it, right? And if you have IBD, and vice versa. So we have some good designs here that could be reviewed.
Yeah, the process of generating and loading are simple, and we just want. I think the implications come around balances. We just want to make the user aware. So like the balance you're seeing is technically not. There's a small chance, right, that you loaded in a malicious snapshot or just like a wrong snapshot or whatever. And then when IBD is finished, things change. Of course, like if you were to send, the network isn't going to accept the transaction that's invalid. It's just that there's like a small implication on, we want the user to just be aware, like these balances are assumed UTXO balances. They're not like full core done IBD. You verified your own chain state balance. It's essentially the same security guarantee, but it's not your core node that created its own chain state. Although I guess more in the future that's consideration. Right now, people are generating their own snapshot from their own node. So, but it is still something that we want probably to show like, hey, like this is still an assumed UTXO balance. I don't know how we'd display it.
Yeah, so I think this thread is about it. Yours has this pull request about signaling where in the transactions when they're not assumed UTXO'd, when they're assumed, I guess is the term. And I commented in there too. So he's basically just manipulating the confirmation indicator, right? But I think that's a little bit, I think he's basically working with the UI elements that he has, right? It's just, not implementing anything new, but we have the opportunity, of course, here to do something completely new. And one of my latest idea, which is I posted here 3 weeks ago, is that, obviously in the block log, it's going to show that it's, importing, that it's not up to date yet. So you kind of have that in mind. But then in the send screen that we just show you like a little text, like instead of like changing an icon and expecting you to know what the slight change in that icon means and hovering the tooltip, we just like put a note in there in the send screen. It's like, just you can send, but just keep in mind, it's safer if you wait until this process is done. And it's going to take 2 hours or something like that.
It's funny. I mean, it mainly stems from, we just want the user to be aware that your node hasn't yet gone through the IBD process and created its own chain state. But if you're going to send and a transaction confirms on the network, there is no concern, right? There's no concern of anything. If it didn't, if it's rejected by the network, there's something incredibly wrong. So the implication's really not huge. It's just, again, because it's core and because the idea is you're supposed to trust your own node that generated its own chain state after doing IBD. We just want some sort of symbol.
Exactly. Yeah. You just want it to be, and not scare people off, right? And that's something that we've discussed too, is that if we imagine like Bitcoin's going to be like crazy numbers, right, and Bitcoin Core will be the most trusted UI, whatever, for on-chain stuff, then that means people will likely make higher value transactions, right? They're not going to send like eCash 5 sats or so. It will be very meaningful to them, and they want to be informed. They want to feel secure and safe and all of this stuff. So over communicating on some of these things, like if someone for whatever reason wants to send like 50 Bitcoin, they really want that assurance that everything's cool, right? Over communicating, being a little more explicit, not in a scary way, but in a informative and helpful way. That's kind of where we landed on the design side. I think in consumer UI, it's like whatever, where it's like centralized by some company, they try to hide basically everything. And if it fails, it's not a big deal. But, I think here we're in a slightly different context, as you mentioned. Yeah, I have a call in 2 minutes that I'm going to have to hop out for. By the way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, good call, Pablo, or anyone. Pablo, if there was anything you wanted to say while the designers are here, you can go ahead, or Pro Mag or anyone. They're going to leave soon.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you Thank you for the
Okay.
call.
100 calls. What are we going to make it to? 1,000? 10,000?
Well, technically infinity because you guys are here forever.
I'm not. Well, I mean, it depends on like the on the evolution of healthcare and that type of stuff. Maybe
Right.
I read a book and learned that nanobots are going to fix all my cells and prevent them from aging and stuff in the next 10 years, but we'll see if that happens.
Well, you're a robot now on the call, so.
Just one thing about the Assume UTXO. I mean, congratulations to the grant. That's super awesome. It says here that this is over the next 6 to 12 months. I'm just kind of curious what and it doesn't have to be on this call, but generally, like if there's some tracking of how Assume UTXO is kind of evolving over, so if there's some place to keep up with it, I'd love to know.
G, do you know about that?
If where it's being tracked on core or where is it being tracked from us?
More like your process and where you're at with things, and are you also posting to the general to this project board, or do you like post somewhere else about your plans and what you're working on?
Yeah, I'm basically following the design, and then I've been in touch with Hebasto directly about when V26 is going to be merged, which has the functionality.
Mhm.
But then I can put it more officially on the board with Harold and the rest.
Yeah. Well, just quickly. V26 was 2 versions ago, so that's it. We're going on V28. So Assume UTXO is definitely has been in core. So the functionality is there.
Awesome! Yay! Yay!
Let's get it done tomorrow then. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording because I'm gonna have to hop off.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.